nothing. There's almost nothing you want to leave out of it. So we'll just get it rolling and see how it goes.
Sure.
Sarah, did you find that problem as well? There's just so much to it that it's almost like, where do you find a break? Where do you pause and say, "Here's a good question"? So anyhow, we'll get through it.
Yeah, I did. I thought, well, wow, yours is so much stuff in it, your chapter. And
Boy, it
then
was.
I thought, oh, I hardly had anything. And then I thought, no, I need a little bit more.
Yeah,
and then I went back.
You had a lot in your chapter too.
I had a
that's
lot.
for sure. Absolutely.
So like,
Hello, everyone. Tom.
Hello, Leroy. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. So, it is now 6:30. Where's Bruce? Is he around?
Haven't seen him. He may join us later. We can get started. That's fine.
Okay, okay. All right, that is very good. Want to welcome everyone to our book study. And of course, we're studying. Oh, I need to go get my book. So if I run out, I'm going to get my book. And yeah, matter of fact, I called it wrong the last time, but so I want to get it right this time. Okay. Of course, now this is an amazing book by Bryan, um, giving people the courage to fight for what is right. And then, of course, he was fighting for the poor and the oppressed and the voiceless. And it's just an inspiring book. And so tonight we'll be going in chapter, 3 and 4. And the leader for those chapters will be
Herman and
Herman
Sarah.
and Sarah. Okay, and then of course we go to the next one, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We have someone for that. I think it was Rick and someone. So anyone want to volunteer for 7 and 8?
Let's see what dates will they be, So 5 and 6 will be, let's get the dates.
Okay, we'll get that. Bruce has that date.
It's the second Tuesday of each month.
Oh, so it is, I know, it's interfering.
And we might make it,
hold
we're probably going to make an exception for the week of Synod Assembly. So in June, it will probably not be the second. So that's the only one we have to, but March, April, May should be the second Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, it's April 14th and May 12th.
Okay.
those
Okay.
two.
And I'm gonna be out of state and out of the country both of those.
Wow.
Is that right? April 14th and May? You saying that?
Yeah, I'm
May 12th.
gonna miss you guys.
Okay. So April
Okay.
14th will be what? 5 and 6?
5 and 6.
Yeah,
Right
5 and
here,
6.
going to get my book.
And then
And 7 and 8, May 12th.
okay. May 12th will be 7 and 8. Because I'm willing to do a portion. So
We'll put you down.
I'll go down for May. Okay, so someone has April, so I'll go down for 7 and 8.
Okay, Herman, we'll turn it over to you. Would you do our opening prayer? And
I'll be glad to. I'll be glad
okay.
to. The Lord be with you.
Also with
And
you.
also with you.
Review.
God, continue to be with us as we read this very disturbing 2 chapters in the book Just Mercy.
Oof.
As we continue to live in a world where there's so much injustice that often goes unrecognized behind the scenes, continue to help us be aware of it, to be recognize it, to be advocates for justice, for fairness, for following the laws and the rule of law at this difficult time. And we thank you for your presence with us tonight, and for Bryan Stevenson, who has written this book, and for the way he's shining light on some of the unjust practices in our criminal court system. All this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Now, my analogy might not hold, but I'm going to try it anyway. I think they now have trifocal glasses out. Trifocals where you can see far and you can see near and you can see up close, and there's a trifocus lens. So I want us to read tonight's chapter or reflect on our discussion with a trifocus lens, okay? And the first focus is the systematic institutional racism that we see in our criminal justice system, primarily in Alabama, since that's what we're talking about. But I think most people would say there's still systematic institutional racism in our criminal justice system. The second lens would be our cultural cultural racism of the past 120 years of Jim Crow laws. I say 120, roughly from 1860 to 1980 is the time period that we're reading about. So there is 100 years of Jim Crow laws of people avoiding the law, of white people using the law for their own purposes, and black and brown people being punished, particularly in the South. But it was these interracial laws were all across the country. So we have the cultural lens, we have the systematic institutional racism lens, and we have the individual personal racism. I mentioned that last because of the three, I think it's the least important. The fact that individuals are racist, yes, and the fact that individuals respond to a racist society and racial institutions should not be a surprise. But we often focus just on the bad apples and say they're bad apples, and we don't see the culture behind them or the systemic injustices in the institutions themselves. So those are the three lenses I invite us to keep in mind as we go into this chapter. This chapter begins with Walter being arrested on sodomy charges, which is a strange kind of thing. They needed to arrest him so they could build a case, and they didn't have a case. There was no case against him except that Ralph Myers, one guy had said that that he had been involved, and somebody else had said they had seen his truck. So they invented something salacious like sodomy, and poor Walter didn't even know what the word meant, and he had to be told by the sheriff it means that you raped another man, and Walter just laughed and said, "That's the most incredible thing I've ever heard, because I haven't done that. That's not true." But it added to sort of the mystery and the hype around this case, and it again it worked against Walter. I want us to turn to page 49 because I want us to hear what the actual state evidence was, and we have 2 paragraphs on 49. The third paragraph on the top of that page. It says, here's Myers' account. So they had one witness, Myers, and this is his total account, and it's not a very strong case, but I'd like for someone to read that paragraph for us.
Here's Myers' account of the murder of Rhonda Morrison. On the day of the murder, Myers was getting gas when Walter McMillan saw him at the gas station and forced him at gunpoint to get into Walter's truck and drive to Monroeville. Myers didn't really know Walter before that day. Once in the truck, Walter told Myers he needed him to drive him because Walter's arm was hurt. Myers protested, but had no choice. Walter directed Myers to drive him to Jackson Cleaners in downtown Monroeville and instructed him to wait in the truck while McMillan went inside alone. After waiting a long time, Myers drove down the street to a grocery store to buy cigarettes. He returned 10 minutes later. After another long wait, Myers finally saw McMillan emerge from the store and return to the truck. Upon entering the truck, he admitted that he had killed the store clerk. Myers then drove McMillan back to the gas station so that Myers could retrieve his vehicle. Before Myers left, Walter threatened to kill him if he ever told anyone what he had seen or done.
All right, Danny, while you're doing that, go ahead and read that next paragraph too. In summary,
an African-American man planning a robbery murder in the heart of Monroeville in the middle of the day stops at a gas station and randomly selects a white man to become his accomplice by asking him to drive him to and from the crime scene because his arm is injured, even though he had been able to drive himself to the gas station where he encountered Myers and to drive the truck after returning Myers to the gas station.
all right. So what are your observations about this story and this account? And this is the charge that got him arrested on sodomy charges when there was no evidence of that either. But what do you hear in this story?
It's ridiculous. It's a weak case. It's no case. It's the most ridiculous thing you ever heard of. You know, because it said in summary, an African American gave you a clear picture of what the scenario was. In what sense does it? How real could this be?
And if his arm was so hurt, why did he drive to and from the gas station?
He's saying, look at the characters. You
Yeah.
got an African American, you got a white male, and the African American has a hurt arm and says, I want this white man to drive me. It's ridiculous.
It really is. So that was the case, and the facts never really change, only how they're presented, and there, a couple people down the line changed their story some.
Yep.
I think it's appalling to hear this story because
It is.
there were no prior arrests for Walter. Remember, what was his crime? What was his original crime that was never charged for? It was having sex with a white woman.
Yeah, that's what
So he was guilty of that, but based on that, they decided that he's a good character to go after, and they got this Ralph Myers who made up a fabricated story, and so they put all the pressure on Ralph Myers, who tries to recant 3 or 4 different times and is not allowed to recant. Any other observations about this case they got on page 49?
Well, I need to get an understanding here. You all said that this is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's stupid. It makes no sense. But yet and still they brought a case. How did we get to that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when we hear how they won the case, it becomes even more ludicrous.
Yes.
You know, because they were blind to anything fair or just. They didn't give them a reasonable trial. They went out of their way to make this trial the most to put them in the most harsh of environments. I mean, right from the start, the cards, all the cards, institutional racism, cultural racism, individual, all of it was stacked against Walter. And his only real crime was being black.
That's right. And
You know,
Fort Way, the story was coerced by the
DA, the sheriff.
By the law, by the legal system. They were the ones who coerced this little story.
And part of what I saw there also was it was like prestige, you know, for the sheriff. And, you know, I mean, here he was wanting the recognition for getting that crime resolved and solved. And, you know, I mean, it was just all within a racist system.
Yep.
And the prosecutor, the DA, was going to be retiring soon. This was going to be the crown of his accomplishment, the height of his, to get this black man arrested and persecuted and tried for a crime, and gets all the white people off his case because he couldn't figure out who had done this murder, and they had no evidence for anyone else. So, you know, he was in a hot seat politically. He really was. And so that's why he was willing, that and his own prejudice, and the system just gave him the power to say and do whatever he wanted to say and do. Does anybody remember what kind of alibi he had that day? What was Walter's alibi? Was it a good alibi in your consideration, or a weak alibi? How would you consider his alibi?
It was a strong alibi.
How
Yeah,
so?
he was
with his family. He was
family.
he was
All those people in his family saw him there at the barbecue.
yes.
The
Working
community
on the
saw
car
him.
and everything.
Dozens of people.
A policeman. He even tells in the story here that there was a policeman that came by to get a fish sandwich.
But he changed his mind.
Later the man recanted and said he didn't do that. But originally, and also a furniture man came by that day to collect furniture money. And he was a white man and said he knew it was because he was related to the lady he was related to the woman that got shot.
Yeah.
So his alibi was really enough for them to say, why in the world would they pursue this any further?
Yeah.
Except they had no one else, and they wanted to get this done, and they wanted to get it done, and they didn't care about justice or anything else.
They wanted him. They
Yep.
wanted to put Walter away. Period.
Right.
They wanted
Right.
to.
And the only corroborating evidence they had besides Ralph Myers was a Bill Hooks, who was known as a jailhouse snitch.
Yeah.
A jailhouse snitch is someone that's willing for a price to say almost anything the police want you to say to get someone convicted. So Billy Hooks said he saw Walter's truck, and he remembered it because it was a lowrider truck. But Walter later said, my truck wasn't a lowrider truck that day. I did that after the incident, so that he was wrong about that too. So those were the two weak stories, and Ralph Myers recanted his story 3 or 4 times and tried to take it back, and they wouldn't let him take it back.
Right.
So very strong alibi, and when it actually came to his trial, what's interesting is they only used 3 or 4 of those witnesses about his alibi. When they could have had a dozen, they used just 3 or 4.
On page 51, it actually says dozens of people were able to confirm that Walter could not have committed the murder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So based on all of this evidence they had and his witnesses and things like this thing steps beyond systematic racism and Jim Crowism. It steps into evil, plain evil in society.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah,
Or evil is a result of all 3 of those isms coming together. But you're right. This is evil. This is pure and simple evil. Take an innocent man, accuse him falsely, trumped up charge. And I say trumped up using that word. But anyhow, and yes, absolutely. Now, did these advocates and his family try to intervene? Did they try to go to the sheriff and say, you got the wrong man? We know this. Did they try to, what is the role of his family in this chapter?
He's got a sister who's a minister on page 51.
Okay.
Walter's sister was a local minister, and she and her family occasionally raised money for the church by selling food on the roadside. So see, now they kind of like tried to speak up for the fact that, I mean, she had a prominent position in the town.
She did.
His own sister. And yeah.
The black community, and including his family, all begged Sheriff Tate to not keep him arrested, to set him on, to get him out on bail, or even to release him because their evidence was so strong against him. But Sheriff Tate wouldn't listen to them and did not listen to them. And then a couple other things about this that made this case so incredibly weak was Ralph Myers, who was a con man and didn't have much credibility. Every few weeks he would recant his story and say, I take it back. This man's innocent. I didn't know him. I made up the story.
Yeah.
And then what would they do when Ralph Myers said that? They would lock him into put him into the death row.
Yeah, they put him in the death row.
In death row, and also Walter was put on death row. So Walter went from being a free man with no convictions against him to being in a 5 by 9 foot cement hole with a toilet and confined in this terrible space on death row when it's against the law to put someone on death row who's merely been charged with a crime and not convicted of a crime.
Yep.
So Sheriff Tate once again misused his authority and his power to scare the living daylights out of Walter every chance he did.
And
In
to
fact,
force
go
and
ahead.
try to force a confession.
Try to
Clearly.
force a confession. He did.
Yeah.
He did.
They just literally, in other words, they set Walter up. He's going down for this crime, and we're going to use Ray. Ray is just we're just using him. He's
Right.
just, yeah, like he had no choice.
What were some other factors that were playing with Walter's mental stability? Again, being a free man and now being locked up in 5x9 in solitary confinement. Where was he locked up? What was death row? What the condition? What was death row like?
Oh,
What was the electric chair's name?
yellow something, yellow
Yellow
mama.
Mama.
Yellow
Mama. Mama.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, you're on death row where a number of people are going to be electrocuted, and the whole focus there is on the executions.
Mhm.
And I think it was like maybe 3 weeks before, a short time before, there was an execution of a man, and it took him 15 minutes. He had to be shot 3 times. So that story gets out that this man, the whole idea about electrocution is it should be quick and easy and painless, but he was electrocuted 3 times before he finally died.
We hear some interference from somewhere.
So Walter hears those stories. There's a little bit of background noise. So Walter hears those stories. Anybody have your volume down?
Reggie just came on. He might have something on in the background.
Okay.
Oh, I'm watching. I'm double duty. My grandson's playing baseball, so I'm sitting in the outfield away from everybody.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you made it, Reggie. Good to see you.
Can he mute himself? That's all. Mute.
Reggie hit Control A or Alt A.
I'm
Yeah,
not
he might
sure
be
I
on
can
the phone.
find it.
I don't
You
hear
got a really big finger.
I don't see what you're asking.
That's right. That's right. Don't worry about it. Reg. Can you talk a little bit about the people at Broad River were people there electrocuted, or how they faced the death penalty there?
Okay, I actually worked 2 different executions.
I thought you did.
Both of mine were by lethal injection. They were, at the time, death row was in Lieber, which is in Ridgeville, down close to Somerville.
Uh-huh.
And we'd go down, we'd bring them up. Now, you have to understand a couple things. Once they're condemned to death, they go back and belong to the county. They're no longer state inmates.
Huh? I did not know that.
Yeah. So it's up to the counties and all to bring them up and do everything. They execute at 6 o'clock on Friday afternoon, Friday evening. So my second one we did, the guy had beat up an officer and was put in maximum security lockup, and we went to see him. We spent 7 minutes from the time we signed in to the time we left with him.
Okay.
He didn't want anything to do with us. They went to pick him up, and he had taken the razor blade out of the razor and cut his throat that day.
Wow.
And tried to kill himself before the execution. So, yeah, I got that brought back a lot of memories. That whole thing about the executions and all. One of them we had while I was there. SC&G at the time was one that furnished power, would not furnish power for executions. So we had 3 generators. And it was a bad thunderstorm. Power went off in the area that night. And they ended up having to go to the 3rd generator to get it to work. The first 2 did not. So I got a lot of stories like that.
All right.
Yeah.
If you look on page 56, this is where the family hired two respectable black lawyers to represent them, a Chestnut and a Bruce Boynton from Selma. And these guys knew their way around the courtroom, and I think did a fairly good job trying to represent him, although the cards were really stacked against him, and it made it sound like Sheriff Tate. It made Sheriff Tate even madder because they brought in outsiders to defend him, and so it made the white judge and the white sheriff more resistant to anything they tried to propose to help him. We get a pretty good picture, a snapshot of what Walter's frame of mind was. The bottom of page 56 and first two paragraphs of top of page 57 about how Walter tried to adjust to Holman to being on death row. Would someone read that for me?
Walter tried to adjust to Holman, but things only got worse. With the scheduled execution approaching, people on the row were agitated and angry. Other prisoners had advised him to take action and file a federal complaint, since he couldn't legally be held on death row. When Walter, who could barely read or write, failed to file the various pleadings, writs, motions, and lawsuits the other prisoners had advised him to file, they blamed him for his predicament. Is that?
Yeah, read the next two paragraphs as well.
Fight for yourself. Don't trust your lawyer. They can't put you on death row without being convicted. Walter heard this constantly, but he couldn't imagine how to file a pleading in court himself. There were days when I couldn't breathe, Walter recalled later. I hadn't ever experienced anything like this before in my life. I was around all these murderers, and yet it felt like sometimes they were the only ones trying to help me. I prayed, I read the Bible, and I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that I was scared, terrified, just about every day. Okay.
And that was the reason they put him in that death row to begin with, is to keep him frightened and terrified, to make him numb with fear, make him unable to do anything. That, he was just a helpless victim at their hands.
It was like a torture, wasn't it?
Yeah, the prison itself was a torture, and when it should not have been. At that point, it should have been just to keep him there until his trial. But
they were breaking him down. They
were mentally, emotionally, and spiritually breaking him down.
Yeah.
And Leroy, like you said, that's evil. This was evil.
Yeah.
The whole thing is unimaginably miserable for me to even think about.
Yeah.
But the parts where they talk in particular about Myers smelling the flesh of an executed person that they knew was scheduled for execution is beyond imagination. It's so unbelievably hard for me to imagine.
It is.
Yes.
It's so horrible.
Very horrible. Just with your saying that, Tom, now who is it? Red? Is it Red?
Ridge.
Yeah.
What is it, Ridge?
Yeah, Reggie.
Okay, so Reggie, look at the difference between the lethal injection process versus the execution, the electric chair. What you say? What's your take on?
Lethal injection is much easier.
Yeah.
On everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. The electric chair is really a misnomer.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful oak chair. Let me tell you. Very well made. One you would love to have in your house.
Not all.
What they do to electrocute you is shave your head and put a copper cap on you.
Yeah.
Shave your leg and put a copper bracelet on you about 6 inches tall, and they attach the electrical wires to those. That's how they electrocute you. The chair has nothing to do with it. That's just where you're sitting.
Yeah. Okay.
And they strap you in.
Yeah, I got you.
So I I would love to know how the firing squad works now in South Carolina.
Yeah. Mhm.
Is that what's legal now in South Carolina? Is a firing
Yeah.
squad?
That's
Yeah.
what's legal.
Yeah.
Free.
Yeah. I think of the three, I take the lethal injection. I always think of that as in capital punishment, that type of putting people to death. I would say lethal injection over the firing squad or the electric chair.
What they do, they have 3 syringes and 3 different people match them. So you don't know which is which.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
took about 18 to 20 minutes for each one.
It's slowly it's like you just go to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, that's what they do. They put you to sleep first.
Well, look at that.
I think the firing squad, don't they have like some have blanks instead of real bullets?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that some have real bullets and some have blanks, and nobody knows when they pull the trigger whether they got blanks or the real bullets.
Do they blindfold the victim? Do they blindfold the prisoner?
In the firing squad, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm curious to know if
As we continue into his trial,
yeah.
Ted Peterson, the DA, had one thing he had to navigate. Before this time, it was easy to get away with an all-white jury. In fact, that was what happened.
Mm-hmm.
In most murder cases with the black, it was an all-white jury, and they did that just by suspending and saying no. They would interview black candidates, but they would only choose one or none. So there was an overwhelming white majority. But the Supreme Court, this is how our Supreme Court worked then, and not too far did, ruled that was an illegal, that it was illegal to discriminate against racial minorities that way, and they needed to at least interview them and have them available for trial, just like a white juror. So in his case, he had, I don't know, a dozen African Americans that were interviewed, and they kept one of them. And there was another interesting variation on his trial that I thought was very interesting. And again, a very sad kind of thing. His lawyers, his black lawyers, would normally file a petition to move him from one county to another county. And the idea is that Walter at this time had become an infamous person. He'd gotten a lot of publicity, and so the jury pool would be tainted by knowing about him. But the DA and the judge conspired to say, when they ask for this, we're going to grant it. But then we're going to assign to a mostly all-white county. That only 19% were black, and it was in a rich, affluent area on the coast and a very conservative area. So once again, they granted him his request to have the trial moved. But instead of going to a county that there were 60 or 70 or 50% black, they sent him to a county where there was only 19% black, and there's rich, white, affluent people who were extremely conservative. So literally, he had no case in that county, and because they would have all been, on the side of the murder victim and been against him. And so once again, an escape hole that was meant to make the system more fair was used against Walter. Anything else about that trial? Anything else about that trial that stands out to you?
I do want to say one thing. We talk about him going now, death row is one thing, but there's a few inmates in the Department of Corrections, South Carolina, who are what we call safekeepers.
Right.
They're moved by the county for their protection. It depends on the crime and all. They may be in danger there in the jail.
Right. Right.
Maybe. So they are sent to the Department of Corrections, but they are not put on death row. We always knew the inmates had a 6-digit number, all of them, except for the safekeepers, and theirs started with SK, and it was about a 4-digit. So if I pull somebody up, I'd see what they were.
So Reggie, a safekeeper, it didn't matter what their crime was or how severe.
Sometimes the big thing was for protection of both If he was somebody that was prone to escape,
Yeah.
they'd put him down there instead.
Oh, okay. I see.
If he had committed a heinous crime, sexual
Yeah.
type crime,
Yeah.
especially with children,
With a child.
he may be in danger in that jail from the other prisoners.
So they'd be looking out for that person's safety.
Yes.
So a prisoner an inmate could literally earn a privilege of safekeeping.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call it a privilege.
Because the safekeeping.
They put in lockup.
I got you. So that ain't so much a privilege. It's keeping them alive is what it is. But it's prolonging their lives. Okay.
Right.
I got you. I understand that. Yeah. Woo! Prison's a terrible place. Prison is terrible.
No, it's not so bad once you get used to it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
I'll just stay there for a while. I was thinking that even Stevenson filed for cruel and unusual punishment when the fellow didn't die the first time in the electric chair.
Yes.
They just threw that out, didn't even pay attention to it. Those poor people had no influence, they had no power, and the law was not on their side. They had nothing going for them except this Bryan Stevenson coming in and doing whatever he could do to help them.
Yeah, one of the things that really bothered me a lot, and we talked about it earlier, was the sheriff, the prosecutor, the judge. You know, they were all in elected positions. People that people put the trust in, and I'm sure the next chapter will go into it, but it's just so sad that, that those people that you have trust in, are the people that are really bad people.
Corrupt.
I mean, really bad.
Corrupt.
And they're all about themselves. It's so selfish and self-serving.
No heart. It's like they didn't have hearts.
Yeah.
Did you see that a judge in Alabama, or governor, finally commuted the sentence of a guilty man, of a man that would have been on death row, that was going to be but could not have possibly pulled the trigger, never did it. He was clearly innocent. And only at the last minute today did he get a reprieve.
Yeah. I couldn't help but think about this book when I read that, when I saw that.
Because look how close he was to dying, and they knew he didn't do it. They had all the evidence in the world, but because he had been sentenced to die, only a governor could commute it. So I just thought, well, we haven't come as far as we thought we've come.
That was just recent, right?
This week. Yeah.
This week.
Yep.
And was it in Alabama?
It was in Alabama.
But it is just so disturbing that elected officials, they were just self-serving.
Let me tell you,
they wanted to get reelected, and in order to get elected, they would make things difficult for for people.
Well, Walter got set up big time by the system. He literally he didn't have a leg to stand on, because the system of people in positions of authority were out to get him. You're going down for being bold enough to live the type of life that you thought you could get away with, and you're going to pay for it. And they were determined to make him pay for what he had done. Yep.
And they used utterly preposterous accusations.
Yes.
That constantly changed. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah. For the reality
just horrible.
The reality that he was like, I date a woman out of my race, and I've offended her race for being in a relationship with her, and now my life is over. And he didn't have any other things that he did. He wasn't
did not. He had no criminal record.
He didn't have a criminal record or anything.
In fact, most of the white people around him thought he was a hard-working, good man. I mean, they liked him.
They looked up to him. They thought he was a decent person. They looked at him as a person.
All right, let's look at the summary on the end about page 66,
Yeah,
paragraph that says Chestnut's cross-examination. Chestnut was his lawyer, Walter's lawyer. When
yeah.
he cross-examined Myers, he made it clear that the witness was lying. Clear.
Mm, mm,
When Chestnut finished, Walter was sure that the state would simply announce that they had made a mistake.
mhm.
Instead, the prosecutor brought Myers back up to repeat his accusations as if the logic and contradictions in the testimony were completely irrelevant, as if repeating his lies often enough times in this quiet room would make them true.
Wow.
Sounds like some politicians we know today.
And then the snitch had his part in it too.
He did.
He put the
He did.
icing on the cake, that Bill Hooks.
Yeah, Bill Hooks did, and that's when Walter told the lawyer. But my truck wasn't a low riding truck. That he couldn't have seen. He couldn't have seen my truck.
Yeah.
And that was not, the lawyers didn't make a big deal about that. And then the next to the last paragraph, it says there were a dozen people who could talk about the fish fry and insist that Walter was at home when Rhonda Morrison was killed.
That's right.
His lawyers called only three of them. Everybody seemed to be rushing to get the trial over with, and Walter couldn't understand it.
Mhm.
The state then called a white man, Ernest Welch, who was a furniture man who had collected money, and he said no, it wasn't on that day; it was on another day. So the white man recanted his story,
Yeah.
and so that was the final nail, and so
Mhm.
they
That was
put it.
it.
That's
That
it.
was it for Walter. Yeah. He was pronounced guilty at that point. I know he couldn't believe. Could you imagine he thought he was in a nightmare? Poor Walter.
He wasn't a nightmare. Lord
He
have
was
mercy.
He was literally living a nightmare of, I can't believe my life is unfolding in front of me like this, and it's going down the drain, and I know I'm innocent. My God, the odds were stacked against him. Wow. Sad. Mm. Oh, well, so that concludes chapter 3.
It does. I think it's amazing that Bryan Stevenson went back and found all these irregularities, went back and researched it, went back and proved that he was innocent beyond a shadow
Yeah.
of a doubt. I mean,
Yeah.
my admiration for Bryan Stevenson as a truth teller
Yeah. And he's
goes
a
way
good
up here,
storyteller.
and a good storyteller.
He's a good writer. This book is like just riveting with the way the story comes off the page to you. Like you're living it. It's wow. I was in tears reading chapter 4 toward the end of the chapter. The execution.
Yeah.
I was in tears.
So we ready to go on to 4?
I think we are.
Looks like it. Yep.
So Bryan is trying to set up an office in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Uh-huh.
So he's trying to get funding, and he if he could get some funding, he could get some matching federal funds, but he couldn't get any.
Ain't happening.
And he couldn't talk any lawyers to join him to earn less than $25,000 a
Nope.
year, so
Mm-mm.
wasn't getting any help. So then he moved to the state capitol and set up an office, Equal Justice Initiative, and they had a coffee pot and a printer, but they couldn't run both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
So then executions from 75 to 88 in Alabama, there were 3. But by 89's end, executions doubled.
Wow.
Mhm. It was amazing.
And then he got some new clients, besides McMillian, a guy named Lindsay on page 69,
Mm-hmm.
and another guy named Duncans. But Lindsay had a volunteer lawyer, but that guy quit after a previous case left him disillusioned and angry, vowing never to take another death penalty case, even if they disbar me for my refusal.
Yeah.
Thought was interesting.
That
And
was. Mm-hmm.
another judge said, oh yeah, I favor the death penalty because mad dogs ought to die.
What he said.
But
Wow.
in Lindsay's case, his jury decided he should not be executed, but the judge he had campaigned that he would start doing more executions, and so he turned it over and said, and only Florida and Alabama were allowed to turn over
Wow.
the jury's decision for years, and then and the Supreme Court upheld the override. So he was executed. Lindsay was executed in May of '89.
And just
And
think
then,
how wrong the system was, that a jury would literally say, okay, life imprisonment for the crime that you've just been accused of. And the judge could override it and say, nah, death.
And a Supreme Court could support the judge. An
Yes.
all-white
Yeah.
Supreme Court could say, well, of course, if he says it, it must,
If it's the judge overrides.
Yep.
Judge overrides every time.
Well, what's interesting, I think it's in page 70, it talks about the people financing. This is the election of the judges. This is the
Yes.
people financing these elections
Yes.
are largely unconcerned
Mm-hmm.
with whatever modest differences exist between
That's right.
candidates on crime, but punishments
Mm.
get the votes.
Mm.
Wow.
Punishment gets the vote.
Judge overrides are an incredibly potent political tool.
The author even says, he even notices that when it's election year, they increase. They tended to increase when it was an election year. How about that?
Yeah.
It was all
Punishment gets the
political. It
votes.
was political, and people's lives were being played with and just thrown away through politics like this.
Now let's bring a lens of religion into this.
Okay.
When you have a harsh view of God as a judge and a wrath, and one who's going to judge us all for our sins, and you take that harsh view and you put that on a punitive system like we've got, what you get is the judges that feel more powerful than God.
That's right.
And you get a Christianity that's all about punishment, not
That's
about
right.
not about people being rehabbed or being learning a valuable skill or a tool or paying their debt. It's about punishment.
Yeah.
And so one of our biggest problems is our system has been based on a kind of almost a puritanical understanding of sin and God's wrath against sin,
Right.
and which I think is a misunderstanding and a misteaching about sin.
Yeah.
Because God loves sinners. God so loved the world, he gave his only
Mhm.
son. But we don't talk about it. We talk about God's wrath, and we talk about God's going to get these sinners. So I see that even our theology,
Yeah.
in a sense, our
Right.
and I would call it our white nationalistic theology, because I think it's more white nationalistic, is punishment oriented, people paying their debt.
Yeah.
So it's doubly sad when you think that religion has fueled this kind of hate,
That's right.
and
It's
religion
true.
has fueled this kind of prejudice, and religion
That's
has
right.
fueled giving judges this kind of power to say, no, I don't think the jury knows what's best. I do, because I'm a judge.
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, I've got a story to tell you about an inmate.
Okay.
My first year doing CPE, one of the guys that worked in the horticulture and brought plants around, he had killed a postmaster.
Mm. Mm.
And we had talked and all this. Great guy. I'd have brought him home to babysit. That's what kind of guy he really was. So I asked him one day, his son had committed suicide. I said, is that the reason you did it? He said, see that block wall? That was one of the blocks in Cosman. But he showed me paperwork where he was found not guilty by reason of sanity, went to Buckner and spent time there. And Donnie Myers took him to court 3 times to get him convicted.
Wow.
What?
And finally got him in. Now what he did was wrong. Don't get me. I'm not
Yeah.
condoning.
I know you're not. I know
Yeah.
you're not.
Crime is a crime. Yeah. Uh-huh.
He probably deserved to be. But look, you found not guilty twice,
Yeah.
and you got to go a third time.
You got off. You were free. You were off.
Yeah.
A lot of politics, behind race and the criminal justice system, isn't there?
There
And
is.
the socioeconomic too. So without even race getting in the picture, if you're poor, white,
Absolutely. Economics
you're a
poor.
victim as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
money.
the Supreme Court upheld executing this guy.
Yes, it
But
did.
then 13 years later, they said, oh, mentally retarded, that's cruel and unusual punishment.
God, and it really
But
is.
it took 13 years.
Yeah.
Oops, we made a mistake.
And said it was
Yeah.
too late for poor Horace Duncans. It came
Yeah.
a little too late because he was mentally ill.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't give him a break. It's like,
So yeah, and his case came up so fast that
yeah.
you know he couldn't do anything else to help him. So
Yeah.
then he got this phone call from a guy, Herbert Richardson, who called him collect and said, "I'm going to be executed in a month." This was July, August 18th. Can you help me? And he's like, "Oh my gosh, you know, I'm still trying to set up my office." He had one employee come and work, but he disappeared in a week. Just leaving him a note saying, I can't do this.
Wait, Sarah, excuse me. That's an important part that I wanted to touch on. So let's see.
What page, Jackie?
Let me see. It would be at the beginning of chapter. Let's see. It's the beginning of the chapter 4 when the guy came, the friend from Harvard came to help him. Sarah, where's that now?
Yeah, I thought it was around 71.
Okay, well, let's see, because wherever that was, the friend was like, it was too hard for him. He said the note that he left him let him know that I can't, it's too hard here in Alabama. I can't do this. Let's see, where was that?
That's okay.
Because that's the thing. I wanted to make a comment on it about whether the person, okay, it's on page 73.
That's okay.
Okay. Let's see.
Oh, maybe at the top.
Maybe at the
Oh yeah, at the top from Harvard Law School, and he agreed to join our staff, and he moved to Alabama.
Yes.
And I was thrilled to finally have some help. He'd been in Montgomery for a few days when I had to leave town.
Yeah.
And when I returned, he was gone.
Yeah.
He left a note saying how challenging it would be for him to live in Alabama. He hadn't been there a week.
Okay, I stopped there. And does it even reveal the race of this classmate from Harvard? The author, I don't think the author lets
I don't think it does either.
The author does not let us know whether this person from Harvard was white or black. You hear where I'm coming from?
Yeah,
We're talking Alabama.
I do.
And this guy, this law student was like, oh no, there's no way. It took him a week to say, I can't live here. I cannot live here in Alabama.
Yeah, but then Bryan says for me to stop an execution would mean nonstop work, 18 hours a day for a month.
Right.
Desperately trying to get a stay order from court.
Yeah.
And this poor guy, the Herbert Richardson, he had a lawyer too, but that lawyer quit a year ago.
Yeah.
And I think he must have given up. But he had an interesting story. I mean, Herbert was a Vietnam vet.
Yeah.
So on 74, you have so many bulleted things.
Sarah, if you would please, if I could just inject something here that I thought was very important. Bryan was clearly letting Richardson know, I'm not in shape to help you. I can't even give you a good representation because I don't have the means, I don't have the funds, I don't have the time. In other words, it would really be a lost cause. At the bottom of page 73, Richardson says to him, Mr. Stevenson, I'm sorry, but you have to represent me. I don't need you to tell me that you can stop this execution. I don't need you to say that you can even get a stay. but I got 29 days left, and I don't think I can make it if there is no hope at all. So just say that you'll do something and let me have some hope.
Oh,
Now that's deep right there.
that is pretty powerful.
That was pretty powerful. Now we're
And
talking
also,
hope.
Stevenson said, "Okay, I don't know what I can do, but I'm going to do something." So Stevenson was persuaded. That again made me respect this lawyer even more.
Yeah, it did, because the guy, Richardson, was using his head. His whole thing was, the guy's trying to turn me down because he's trying to like let me know there's no use. I can't
Right.
help you for the good. It's not going to do any good. So the guy finally lets him know, you don't even have to tell me that it's not going to work or that nothing good is going to come of it. I just need the representation just to have hope. And he gave him that hope until the very end of his life. Just by representing, just by trying to fight for him. Yeah, I took a lot. I got a lot from that. That hope was.
Yeah,
was
I mean,
Bryan
his
gave me by
story,
taking-
his
Yeah.
story is so interesting. Vietnam War veteran,
Yeah,
but nightmarish experiences. In the middle of the page, he was in heavy fighting in on K, Vietnam, and then he saw his friends get killed or seriously injured. One mission, his entire platoon got killed, and he regained consciousness, coated in their blood.
yeah,
And he had headaches and experienced a complete mental breakdown.
yeah.
And then he stayed. His commanding officers kept him there for 7 more months, and he was having too many crying outbursts and uncommunicative withdrawal. And they sent him home with a honorable discharge. But he even married, but sometimes he'd run screaming out of the house, incoming. So just horrible.
Yeah, it was horrible.
So on farther, he met a girl in the veterans hospital. He had gotten married, had children, but he went to the veterans hospital, met a nurse there. I think his previous marriage probably broke up. And this woman made him feel good, and he fell in love with her, wanted to marry her, but then she thought he was getting better, but then he was getting to, in the middle of 75, he was getting too possessive. And then she started, you get away, stay away from me. And she moved, but he moved to her because he just thought he could convince her to have him. And he was not unintelligent. He was great with electronics.
Yeah.
And on the next page, he came up in the middle of 76. He came up with an idea. I'll create a bomb and I'll put it close to her house. Well, he put it on her porch, and when it goes off, I'll come running up and save her, and she'll realize she needs me. But a little girl came out the door as he was watching, and she shook the thing, and it exploded, killed her and injured her little friend.
Yeah. That was so sad. That was so sad.
And then it didn't take him long to realize who did it.
Yeah.
And because he was living on the street, they found bomb making materials in his car and in his house. And they said he wasn't even local. He was a northerner.
You're on page 77.
Bottom of 76.
Remember when we read Malcolm X? What was the key organization that they were called? Black Muslims. So you see this comes into play on page
77. Yeah. He's even associated with Black Muslims from New York City.
And deserve no mercy.
No mercy.
Deserve no mercy. Okay.
Yeah. So his lawyer, Bryan, said he didn't have any intention to kill anyone. He just wanted to scare them. So it doesn't qualify as capital murder, but
Reckless
it
murder.
didn't matter.
Reckless murder versus capital
Yeah.
murder.
And during the trial, the appointed defense lawyer presented no evidence about his background, his military service, his trauma from the war, his relationship with the victim. This is middle of 77.
Yeah.
His obsession with the girlfriend. Nothing. And Alabama's statute at the time limited what court-appointed lawyers could be paid under $1,000. So Bryan deduced he probably didn't even know half of that.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said that this lawyer didn't represent him with the case. He did not even give any of that background. It wouldn't have made a difference anyway. We do know that much. It wouldn't have made a difference, but it was the lawyer didn't fight for the guy. This guy had a good background. It's sad that that murder, that the child was killed, a reckless murder.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this guy had a legitimate background that would say he is the way he is. This is how he ended up in this predicament. But the odds were against him.
So, yeah, and even Herbert asked the lawyer to appeal, but the lawyer was like, "What? Why appeal? There's nothing else to say." So he wouldn't even appeal. And then that lawyer got disbarred later on for another case that he didn't do a good job with.
Where did here from the back?
Then on 79, at the top, the top paragraph. If you even, Reggie's still making noise.
I'm getting there. I'm getting ready to go home. I'm walking to my truck.
Out of there.
That the death penalty should not be imposed because of Herbert's trauma, which, if they'd have realized from his child, his mother died at age 3. And then he had an abusive guardian, and he had drugs, influence of drugs in his teenage years, and but then he had military service. But none of these compelling mitigating evidence was presented at trial.
A little further down, it talks about, I was increasingly becoming convinced that Herbert was facing execution because he had been an easy target. He was unaided and easily condemned by a system that was inattentive to the precise legal requirements of capital punishment.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's powerful.
I'm bottom of what page?
That's at lower 70, page 79, isn't it?
78, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. It's either 78 or 79. I'm looking at a digital.
It doesn't matter.
Digital book.
I see in middle of 79, he was unaided, easily condemned by a system that was inattentive to the precise legal requirements of capital punishment. Had he gotten the right help at the right time, Herbert would not be on death row with an execution date in less than 2 weeks.
And then and he had a special person there to talk about trying to convince him that he didn't intend to kill somebody with the bomb, that it was a timed device. And Herbert was there in court with him. And Herbert was saying to Bryan, he's not saying what I need him to say.
Yep.
And he says, he's not allowed to say those things. He's just supposed to talk about the device itself. And he got no help from the judge. The court wouldn't permit, that stuff. And then he said, as he was going out, if I'd have just had like another lawyer to help me manage my papers, or another lawyer to talk to afterwards about what went right, what didn't. But he met some women on the way out and children huddled together. And here, these were family of the deceased and the other injured child. And they said, they told us we would get some help from this trial, and we hadn't gotten any help yet. And we're wondering if you could represent us, Bryan.
Wow.
And he said, "Oh, but I'm for the other guy. You need to know that." Oh, we know that. But after this trial, if you would help us. So, and we don't even want Herbert killed. That was amazing to me. They said it's been enough killing. But Bryan says, yeah, it's the state is against us now, not. So that wasn't going to help him either. And later on, Herbert had met a woman who was corresponding with him for quite a while he was on death row, and they decided to marry a week before the execution.
That always amazed me about prisoners getting wives. I never could understand.
Nope, I can't either.
I never could understand why a woman would marry a prisoner.
Exactly, yeah.
You sound like my wife, Jackie.
Okay, what you say, Red? Because you see it happen, wouldn't you? You come home and tell her about them inmates getting wives, right?
Yeah,
we wouldn't allow marriage.
Y'all wouldn't even allow it.
Hmm.
No.
Very good. Very good.
And
But
if they
even
came
some
to
of the
me and
guards,
asked me about it, yeah. We weren't
even some of
allowed.
the guards
The only thing we could say was,
okay,
whatever. I don't know.
okay.
But it was a complicated process, and we were just not to be involved at all.
Okay, but you wouldn't allow it. It wasn't even allowed. But
well,
I've known some women who married inmates. Like in my lifetime, I've actually seen them in person. I couldn't get over it. I don't understand it.
well, he said he was due to get a flag, and he wanted that woman to have his flag.
Yeah, when
from his service.
The wife
but
gets the flag.
And she said, and we'll come visit you. So, they have the room, the visitation room before the execution. And so the guards were a little nervous about all these people. Well, the woman and her family came.
Oh, I was in tears. I was in tears at this point.
It was noisy, but and then the guards are looking at Bryan like, you help us get these people out of here. And he had asked them to play the Old Rugged Cross for him at the end. And it brought even the guards to tears to hear that music and know what it represented. And the woman did get a little wound up there. I'm not going to leave you, Herbert. But yeah, she did go out then. And and then one very important thing, it's so strange that when Herbert said to Bryan, so many people asked me if they could help in any way, just tell me what. More people have asked me what they can do to help me in the last 14 hours of my life than ever asked me in the years when I was coming up. And that's really sad. I mean, like when he was 3 and his mama passed, where were they? This is at the bottom of 89. And where were they? Where were they when he was 7 and trying to recover from physical abuse? And where were they when he was a young teen struggling with drugs and alcohol? And where were they when he returned from Vietnam?
Okay, I'm sorry. Reggie sounded like he was trying to make a comment.
That was to me, that was the most meaningful statement in the whole chapter.
Wait, go back.
And
I
I
want to
put
see where it was. What? Because I missed.
Bottom 89 is where it starts and finishes on the next page. It starts
beside
out.
it is, yeah, go ahead.
Well, in the last little paragraph, it's been so strange, Bryan. More people have asked me what they can do to help me in the last 14 hours of my life.
Yeah, about the
than ever
training.
asked.
Okay, yeah.
But then down in the last 4 lines, where were these people when we really needed them? Where were they when Herbert was 3 and his mother died?
Mm-hmm.
And when he was 7 and trying to recover from physical abuse. And I didn't read much else about the abuse, so I figured whoever he stayed with.
There. He threw that in there at this point, that this
Yeah.
was part of his trauma, having a mother die at 3 years old. Someone had to raise him. So,
Yeah.
so things started before he ever went to war, before he even got scarred by going to combat. His life was already a mess as a child.
Yeah, and and of course, yeah, in the neighborhood, there was drugs involved
Yeah.
in the 60s or late 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay.
Oh, and one other thing at the bottom of 90, this was
yeah.
Well, yeah, the corrections officials, the men who were paid to shave Herbert's body so that he could be killed more efficiently.
Yeah.
I thought about the officers who'd strapped him into the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And I think no one could actually believe this is a good thing. And down in the last 4 lines, in debates about the death penalty, I had started arguing that we would never think it was humane to pay somebody to rape people, to pay them for doing rape. Or if somebody assaulted and abused somebody, would we assault and abuse them back as punishment? Yet we're comfortable killing people who kill.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I was in tears during this chapter, okay? I literally shed tears. Sarah, if we could go back to page 85, and this is something that I noticed when I read this book before, that Bryan Stevenson is such a great writer. The way he injects different things in his storytelling. And I know there's going to be that part where he goes to the prison and has to take off all of his clothes because of this white guard that's just breaking them off on him. That's going to be further in it. But if you look at page 85, and he tells the part at the top of the page where he says, I entered the prison and saw an older white woman, the correctional officer, right, who managed the visitation yard. And he said how she had never been particularly friendly to him. On this particular night, she was unusually warm. There was an unusual warmth and familiarity when he arrived this time. He said he thought she was going to hug him. Now that's deep, okay? So he gives you this background about this woman, where she comes into play during this family being around the guy, what's his name, before his execution?
Yeah, Herbert.
And this woman plays a part in having a heart for the guy, for the prisoner and his family and everything herself, to the point that she looks to Bryan to like, let's help in this, help me get this family. There was a side of this woman that she showed compassion with Bryan and this particular case here. He points to, you know what I'm saying? He wrote that in on how this.
Yeah, and all this, like after the execution, said, it had to have been an impact on all the people who participated in it. Really and what did the other people who weren't even there think about it? Yeah. Well, and he did mention, some cheered and others thought it's just another horrific thing. We shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. But
I'd like to go. I was just just like to say that at the bottom of 89, when we talked about where were these people,
Yeah,
I wrote beside that, is that not our call?
It is, Reggie. It's a call of the church. Where was it?
Right.
Where was the church?
that's
Right.
right.
Where was the church?
And that hit me. Yeah.
That's right.
And I want to tell you, when there's an execution, it affects us all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first one was done on Friday evening, first weekend in December. My wife's school had their Christmas party. So I walked out of the prison,
Mm.
drove 7-8 miles to Saloon party. Now talk about contrast. Yeah,
What you saying, Red? You left an execution, right?
right.
And went to a school
And then
Christmas
went-
party.
To a Christmas party.
Right.
Yeah. Ooh, mixed emotions. My
I
goodness.
didn't do a lot of separating.
How about that? But look at that. Mm. Mm-mm-mm.
Mhm.
I also want to tell you, we talked about the mentally challenged person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, SCDC is a new mental hospital for the state,
Mm-hmm.
which is ridiculous, but that's where they send them now.
SCDC. Mhm.
Yeah, South Carolina Department of Corrections.
Okay, that's where they send the mental. That's where they send.
Yes,
Oh,
because there are no hospitals anymore.
all right.
So, but the other thing is, there was an inmate who had been sentenced to death
Uh-huh.
that his execution was coming up, and everybody knew him. He's one of those guys that all the officers knew him, all had interaction with him, taught with him, treated him so, yeah, it was just almost a friend to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Governor Hodges did not commute his sentence. They had a tough time getting a team together to do the execution.
Wow.
And they decided then to move death row from Broad River to Lieber, so that the ones who were doing the execution did not have interactions with the ones being executed,
Wow.
which I thought was a great move.
Yeah.
And they've moved it twice and moved it the third time back to Broad River now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Mm-mm-mm. Makes a difference. Wow.
Yeah.
You-
Reggie,
Yeah.
Reggie, I wanted to ask you, when I was reading this, I just felt like that SCDC was a cut above the Alabama system or the whole system. I mean, I know South Carolina has its issues and problems, but did you feel the same way, or do you felt as if there was no difference between the Alabama system and the South Carolina system?
Very little difference.
Very
Part
little.
of it is too, though, is time.
Oh, yeah.
Society's changed since this
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference. But no, I've always said that from my time down there, people in South Carolina have the attitude of lock them up and throw away the key, no matter what they are. It's a herd of cattle. That's all they are.
Mm.
And what people don't realize is that 85% of the inmates will be getting out. Wouldn't it be better if we didn't work with them while they're there to make them better people, so that when they get out, they're not done?
Absolutely.
Right.
We could spend our money could be much better used trying to
That's
rehabilitate than to
That's
just
right.
punish.
Yes, right. Some of them, there's hope that some of them you could say is a lost cause. It's like, let
Yeah.
them out and they're still not gonna, reform. But there's some who will. So many. Yeah.
We had a program called Men's Fraternity, which was a fantastic program from the Baptist Church.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to do an article, and one of them men asked me, out of the 40 inmates we had, said, how many we convert? I said, maybe 5. He looked at me, I said, look, but that's 5 more.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Don't play with numbers. Look at quality.
That's right. Wow, Reggie. So you've seen it from that side of the
Yeah.
wow.
Tell you a lot. And we can sit down, we can talk a whole session about corrections.
Oh my Lord. Mm. Well, the thing that gets me is that when we read this book here, as we're reading this book, we're looking at years ago, we're looking at a different time period, and now we're living in a different time period. So did someone say earlier things haven't changed that much or that drastically?
I wish they had, but I think there's still a lot of racism, a lot of abuse of authority, a lot of ego, a lot of power struggles in our system, and then it absolutely disfavors people that are poor or black or brown.
Well, I want to say, as a black woman, and I look and I go, honestly, this is me. There's a biasness in it, and I'm just gonna be honest. When I see, I wonder where are the real racist, radical white men in this day and time with as many black men and white women, camaraderie and relationships and everything. I never see in the news that anybody's acting out or rising up against it. Anybody else? Has anybody seen something that I don't see? I don't hear anything. I don't see any, like say for instance, when Dylan Roof did the shooting down at Emmanuel.
Right.
I read his manifesto.
Right.
I printed out his manifesto. I read it, and I saw what his mentality was and what his mindset was. He is one of the people that said, even in that room before he shot that night, that you black men want to take our white women. He said this.
Wow.
Anybody else familiar with that?
Yes.
Red, you ever heard of it? Had you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's a common thing. I think
Tom,
it's
had you
just
ever
going.
heard of it?
I think it still exists, but it's hidden. It's dropped down a level, like it's not.
I don't see anybody acting out. I don't see people acting out on it like it was back in the day. So things have changed quite a bit then.
Sure they have. It would be helpful though, Jackie, and it'd be helpful to ask someone in an interracial marriage what do they
see, I know
experience.
some personally.
Yeah.
I know I got interracial people on.
And what I'm saying is, would they say that nobody makes a big deal about it anymore? Would they say it's perfectly accepted? Or would they say we still get funny looks, we still get funny comments?
They do, yes, I'm saying that. I'm telling you, I know for a fact that they still get that, but I'm just saying I don't see any real racist extremists acting out on it is the part I'm making.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I still take a second look when I see that.
I do. People do still, Reggie.
I know that's not, but I also know that's not right.
Yeah.
I've changed by it. So,
right.
You know, I'm not the one that, when I taught classes and I would tell the guys, I said, I grew up a racist.
Right.
Because, I mean, the 60s in South Carolina.
Yeah.
What did you know? That was part of it. I've changed. Also came up as a very conservative, strict Republican, and now I'm a Ted Kennedy liberal Democrat. So
well, Reg, I'm gonna tell you, I have a white member of the church here that I pastor, and he's a Trump supporter and everything. You know, I like whatever, but he came here when he heard that this all-white church had this black female pastor. His wife had been here 40 years and he had never gotten baptized or joined this church. But when I got here and he thought that there was a chance that I was going to become the pastor, he came to me and said, I wanted to meet you and I want to have a confession to make to you. I was raised a racist. He said, my dad was very harsh and I was raised a racist. He even had his little camouflage jacket on and his cap and everything. And he said, but But God has touched my heart, and I don't want to die a racist. I don't want to live the rest of my life as a racist. And so he literally said, I have asked God to change my heart, and I see life differently now. Occasionally, because he was born real poor, he lets me know he came from the real poor side of the track. So he's affected by a lot of things, but the relationship that the two of us have now here at the church together, he gets to be open and honest with me, and he can trust me to share his heart and his feelings about what he used to be, what he was taught, and the person that he is now. But he owes it, he gives the credit to Christ. He gives the credit to God being in his heart, Christ being in his life, that has made him see life differently now and look at race differently.
I want to bring up one point before we end tonight. A little over a year ago, I looked up the number of people on death row.
Mm.
And at the time, it was racially split down the middle, equal numbers on white, equal number of blacks.
I believe that, yeah.
Now, there's been 4 executions in South Carolina in the last, year, 18 months?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what they were. I did check. I think they may have been more whites, but that's the only reason there would be more blacks on death row than there are whites.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So don't let somebody tell you differently.
Right. I got you. I
So,
believe that.
yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, and we have had several Black people, even I think either on death row or they were in prison for a really long time, and they found out that they were innocent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they got out.
Yeah.
Eventually. I think one guy, they found he was innocent and he had to stay in like another couple months. Like, what? Why isn't he immediately released?
Wow. Go figure. Yeah. Well, so the old rugged cross, I thought it was interesting because I know one chapter was Stand, and it had something to do with Sly and the Family Stone record song of back in the day, Stand. And so the title of this chapter was The Old Rugged Cross, and that's what Herbert wanted played while he marched to his death.
And that was very, very interesting. The old rugged cross,
Cross.
because Herbert requested this.
Yeah.
Now, I thought about this thing. Christian nationalism is on the rise, and they are very, very loud. And therefore, they do speak up against interracial marriage and everything else. And my problem here,
That's who I need to hear
yes,
then.
okay.
Good.
But the problem really is, where is the church? The church is not speaking up or speaking out.
Nope.
Therefore, they are still complicit in this racial movement also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the church needs to speak up. And actually, what we're doing now is speaking up and speaking out too.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
I think that when I heard about this case,
Yeah.
and I found that this man was mentally challenged almost from the beginning. He had family problems, but
Yeah.
then he had a good life because he went into the army, got married, and everything
Yeah.
like that. Did something stupid and
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But you know, I was thinking all the time, God knows what he's doing. On the final days, they said the gods even came out and said, "What do you want?" and gave him love. At the
Yeah.
same time, he was married. You know, I had what in the world this woman marrying this man for? But at the same time, he was given a wife. That wife acted like she loved him too. I
Well,
mean, the important thing was love and care and everything like that. And then, of course, when he went out, he went on the old rugged cross, bringing him back to God.
yeah. Herbert really was
The
decent.
church should have been there all along in our lives. Yes.
Yeah, like that wife, they corresponded, for quite a while before they were married, I think. So, she gave him, she listened to him, and then, being outside of prison, she was at a safe distance.
Well, Sarah, 9 times out of 10, this woman may have seen some things in Herbert that she wasn't even running into with guys out walking free on the street. Herbert really was a smart, decent person who had a traumatic life. And I looked at what I got from this chapter, from this particular chapter, was combat veterans, no matter what the race, they suffer.
They
A
have it
lot of
harder.
them suffer
They have it harder.
from that war experience of being in the war and stuff, and it messes with their heads and
Yeah, how long
sometimes are shambles because of
how long did it take
war.
us to realize,
Yeah.
that what they were going through?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, now it seems as if we're getting very close, and we've heard from everybody. Tom, anything else you need to say here tonight?
No,
Heard from-
So there is a movie that's been on television for this book.
Yeah, I heard about it. I never saw it.
I
Anybody else see?
watched part of it till it got up to this execution,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden I'm reliving stuff, and I said, no, I got to quit. I
don't
can't
blame
watch.
you. Yeah.
But it is, and it seemed to be pretty accurate to the book.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But it's been on local television, so.
Yeah, I missed it. I haven't seen it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Kuhn, Dan, anything?
I see Kimberly was listening in, huh? Red?
Kimberly, I don't see her.
I think she may have signed off, but I'd
Signed off,
asked her
okay.
was she gonna be a part of it, but I don't know that she had literally read the book. But I see she was present tonight, listening in.
Okay.
I think she may have signed off.
Okay, well then we'll turn it back over to our leaders for the night to close us out. And thank you all so much. And it was very interesting.
It was interesting. Sarah, I wonder, would you mind having a short prayer and sending us on our way in prayer?
All right. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to gather. We thank you for all these people helping us learn better how to treat each other, and let us learn from that and share and extend this just let other people know about this. We thank you for this technology that makes this available for others who would watch. Help us as we go forth, and thank you for your son in this time of Lent. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank
Amen,
you, everybody.
amen.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks,
It
everybody.
was nice seeing Tom and Reggie. You were new faces to me tonight.
Yeah.
It's a joy to have you
Good
with
to
us.
see you, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah.
thank you.
And thank Neil also.
night.
Neil was with us.
And Neil,
is-
yeah.
Mhm.
Neil was there too. Bye, Neil. Okay. And Reggie, be careful because you're still driving, right?
Yeah.
My son is.
Oh, your son is. You just
Okay.
passenger.
I got a chauffeur.
Okay.